Zaxkar stood at the observation deck of the Commonwealth scout ship, Stellar Seeker, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue planet below. As the senior xenobiologist of the Galactic Commonwealth's First Contact Division, he had visited hundreds of worlds. But this one was different. This was a Class 13 death world, and somehow it had intelligent life. Impossible, he muttered, his scaled skin shifting colors from deep purple to a concerned green. No advanced species could evolve in these conditions. Behind him, Peter Martinez cleared his throat. The human had been their most valuable resource since they found him in cryosleep aboard a failed colony ship 30 years ago. While other Commonwealth species viewed him as an interesting specimen, Zaxkar had grown to respect him as a colleague. "You keep saying that," Peter said, walking up to the window. "But there are 8 billion of us down there." He placed his hand against the glass, looking at his homeworld with eyes that hadn't seen it in half a century. Zaxkar turned all 4 eyes toward his human friend. 8 billion. That can't be right. Your world has active tectonic plates, extreme temperature variations, toxic atmospheric compounds, and dangerous levels of background radiation. The very air contains corrosive oxygen. Peter laughed, a sound that still made Zaxkar's protective scales ripple. "That's just a normal day on Earth. Look, I've been trying to tell you guys for years. Humans are tougher than you think." The ship's sensors beeped, drawing their attention to the main display. Data scrolled across the screen, showing readings that made Zaxkar's scientific training scream in protest. The planet below them experienced regular earthquakes, massive storms, and temperature swings that would kill most sentient species. Yet, according to their scans, the humans had built cities right on top of fault lines, and in the paths of massive windstorms they called hurricanes. "Ambassador, Keith, Free wants to see you both," a voice announced over the intercom. "Meeting room 3. When they entered the meeting room, Ambassador 3 was floating in her gravity suspension field, her crystalline form catching the light. As a Luminian, she couldn't survive in Earth's gravity without technological assistance. Around the table sat representatives from 5 other Commonwealth species, each in their own specialized environmental suits. "We've reviewed the preliminary data," Kithri said, her voice translated through the ship's systems, "and we've decided to proceed with first contact." Zaxkar's scales turned pale. "Ambassador, with all due respect, we need more time to study their survival adaptations. We don't understand how they—" "That's exactly why we're making contact," Kithri interrupted. "These humans have achieved spaceflight and early quantum computing while living on a Class 13 death world. The Commonwealth Council wants to know how." Peter stepped forward. "Ma'am, if I may suggest, let me go down first. I can help explain things to both sides. Earth has changed since my time, but at least I can prepare you for what to expect." The ambassador's crystalline form sparkled in what Zaxkar recognized as agreement. "An excellent suggestion. We'll send down a small team. You, Zaxkar, and 3 security officers. Standard first contact protocols." As they prepared for descent, Zaxkar watched the security team triple-check their environmental suits. Each one was designed to withstand extreme conditions, but they'd never been tested on a world like Earth. "You really don't need those suits," Peter said, checking his own simple Commonwealth uniform. "Earth's environment is perfectly safe." Security Chief Valen, an imposing figure from a low-gravity world, scoffed. "Our scans show that humans regularly consume substances that would be lethal to most species. You call it spicy food. We're keeping our suits on." The descent ship broke through Earth's atmosphere, heading toward their chosen landing site, a small town in Montana that showed minimal military presence. As they dropped through the cloud layer, Zaxkar watched the external temperature readings with growing anxiety. 22 degrees Celsius, he read aloud. "How do they survive such heat?" Peter pinched the bridge of his nose. "That's actually a very pleasant temperature for us. Perfect for outdoor activities." The ship landed in an open field just outside the town. Through the viewport, Zach's car could see a group of humans approaching. They walked casually across the ground, seemingly unbothered by the crushing gravity and the scorching temperature. "Remember," Peter said, standing by the airlock, "they're just as curious about you as you are about them. Try not to show fear. Humans can sense it, and it makes them uncomfortable." The airlock cycled, and Earth's air rushed in. Despite his suit's filtration, Zach's car could detect traces of nitrogen, oxygen, and various pollutants. He watched in horror as Peter took a deep breath of the toxic mixture and smiled. "Smell that fresh mountain air," Peter said. "God, I missed this." A human female in a uniform approached them, her hand raised in what Peter had explained was a peaceful greeting. "Welcome to Pine Creek, Montana," she said. "I'm Sheriff Susan Kelly. We got your message about first contact." She looked at Peter with obvious curiosity. "You must be the human they found in space." Peter nodded, stepping forward to shake her hand. Another human custom that made Zach's car wince. All that bacterial exchange. "Peter Martinez, it's good to be home, even if it took me 50 years to get here." Sheriff Kelly looked at the suited aliens with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "Are the suits really necessary? It's a beautiful spring day." Before anyone could respond, a low rumble shook the ground. Zach's car's instruments went crazy as the Earth itself moved beneath them. The security team activated their gravity stabilizers, but the humans just widened their stance slightly and continued talking as if nothing was happening. "Just a small tremor," Sheriff Kelly said casually. "We get them now and then. Nothing to worry about." Zach's car looked at his readings again. A magnitude 3.2 earthquake had just occurred, and the humans called it nothing to worry about. He made a note in his research log. Humans appear to have evolved complete disregard for their own safety. Further study needed to determine if this is a survival adaptation or a species-wide psychological condition. As they walked toward the town, Zach's car noticed more disturbing details. Humans of various ages were engaging in voluntary exposure to solar radiation, sunbathing, Peter called it, consuming potentially toxic substances, ice cream, and coffee, and some were even intentionally elevating their heart rates through rapid movement, jogging. "Peter," Zach's car whispered through their private comm channel, "I'm beginning to understand why the Commonwealth never found human colonies. We weren't looking in death worlds." Peter laughed again, that strange, unsettling sound. "Just wait until I tell you about our extreme sports." Zach's car didn't know what extreme sports were, but he was certain he didn't want to find out. As they approached the town hall for their first official meeting, he made another note in his log. "Warning to all Commonwealth species. Earth is not just a death world. It is a world where death is ignored, challenged, and somehow, impossibly, overcome on a daily basis. Standard protocols may be insufficient." The town hall meeting room was packed with humans, all staring curiously at the alien delegation. Ambassador K3 floated at the front of the room in her gravity field, while Zach's car and the security team kept their environmental suits firmly sealed. Only Peter Martinez seemed completely at ease, sitting among his fellow humans as if he hadn't spent the last 50 years in space. Sheriff Susan Kelly stood at the podium, addressing both her townspeople and the alien visitors. "Folks, as you can see, we have some special guests today. They're here to establish official first contact between Earth and something called the Galactic Commonwealth." A young boy in the front row raised his hand. "Why are they wearing those funny suits?" Peter leaned forward with a smile. "They're not used to Earth's environment. Where they come from, things are very different." "Different how?" the boy asked. Before Peter could answer, the building's heating system kicked in with a loud clang. The security team immediately activated their defensive shields, causing several humans to jump in surprise. "It's just the heater," Sheriff Kelly explained quickly. "The spring nights get pretty cold up here in Montana." Zach's car checked his instruments. The external temperature had dropped to 10 degrees Celsius, and these humans were calling it pretty cold. His scales shifted to a worried blue color. Ambassador K3's crystalline form sparkled as she addressed the crowd. "We have come to learn about your species and offer you membership in the Galactic Commonwealth. However, we must first understand how you survive in these conditions." A man in worn work clothes stood up. "What conditions?" "Pine Creek's got some of the nicest weather in the state." "She means Earth in general," Peter explained. "To them, our planet is classified as extremely dangerous." This statement was met with laughter from the crowd. Zach's car noticed that even Sheriff Kelly was trying to hide a smile. "Dangerous?" A woman wearing a patch that read Linda on her jacket spoke up. "Sure, you got to watch out for bears and the occasional tornado, but it's not that bad." Zach's car's translator must have malfunctioned. Surely she hadn't casually mentioned apex predators and devastating atmospheric events in the same sentence. The meeting continued, but with each passing minute, the alien delegation grew more concerned. The humans discussed their daily lives, and each description sounded more horrifying than the last. John Baker, a local farmer, talked about working outside in temperatures ranging from -20 to +35 degrees Celsius. Alice Cooper mentioned how she went hiking, voluntarily walking up mountains in thin air and dangerous terrain. And Bill Wright proudly shared stories about his storm-chasing hobby, which involved purposely driving toward massive atmospheric disturbances. During a break in the meeting, Zach's car pulled Peter aside. "These humans, they're all insane, aren't they? They treat lethal conditions as minor inconveniences." Peter shook his head. "No, they're perfectly sane. This is just normal life for us." "Normal?" Zach's car's scales turned almost white with shock. One of them just mentioned swimming in the ocean for fun. The ocean, full of toxic chemicals and dangerous predators. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion outside. Through the town hall windows, they could see dark clouds gathering on the horizon. Lightning flashed, and thunder rolled across the sky. The security team immediately went into high alert, but the humans barely reacted. Some were even walking calmly to their vehicles, discussing dinner plans as if death wasn't approaching from above. "Just a thunderstorm rolling in," Sheriff Kelly announced. "We should wrap this up soon. Don't want our visitors to get caught in the rain." "Rain?" K3's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "You mean the highly corrosive dihydrogen monoxide that falls from your sky?" "We just call it water," Linda said with a chuckle. "It's refreshing, actually. Good for the plants." The alien delegation watched in horror as humans started opening umbrellas and casually walking through the downpour. Children were jumping in puddles, their parents calling out half-hearted warnings about catching a cold, which Peter had explained was a minor viral infection that humans just lived with. Back in their temporary base, a local hotel that the humans assured them was perfectly comfortable, the Commonwealth representatives held an emergency meeting. "These humans," Security Chief Fallon said, "they don't just survive here. They seem to enjoy the dangers. Did you see those young ones deliberately exposing themselves to the acid rain?" Three's form flickered thoughtfully. "Perhaps we should reconsider the standard membership protocols. Earth is unlike any world we've encountered." A loud crack of thunder made the security team jump. Through the window, they could see humans still going about their business in the storm. A group of teenagers was even setting up some kind of game on a wet field. "Football practice," Peter explained, noticing their stares. "The team has a big game this weekend. A little rain won't stop them." "Peter," Zach's car said slowly, "in all your years with us, why didn't you explain that your species was this resilient?" Peter shrugged, a very human gesture. "I tried, but you all thought I was exaggerating. Besides, this is nothing. Wait until winter comes and they start strapping boards to their feet to slide down mountains." The aliens stared at him in silence, their various environmental suits whirring as they processed this information. "I need to update my report to the Commonwealth Council," Zach's car said finally. "Our previous assessment of human capabilities was severely underestimated." Outside, the storm continued, lightning painting the sky in brilliant flashes. A small group of humans had gathered on a porch across the street, drinks in hand, watching nature's display of power as if it were entertainment. "I suggest we all get some rest," 3 announced. "Tomorrow, they want to show us something called a rodeo. Peter assures me it's perfectly safe, but given what we've seen today." She left the sentence unfinished, but everyone understood. On Earth, the aliens were learning perfectly safe had a very different meaning. As the others left, Zaxkar stayed by the window, watching the humans in their natural habitat. He made another note in his log. Day 1 of observation has raised serious concerns. The humans appear to have no natural preservation instincts. Further study is needed to determine how they've survived long enough to develop civilization. Current hypothesis: either extreme luck or unknown biological advantages. Possibly both. The morning after the thunderstorm, the alien delegation gathered in Pine Creek's community center. Alan Wright, the local emergency response coordinator, was giving them a tour of Earth's safety protocols. To the aliens' horror, these protocols seemed to assume disaster was inevitable rather than preventable. "And here's our earthquake kit," Alan said, pointing to a large cabinet. "Every building has one. Basic medical supplies, water, food, flashlights, you know, the usual stuff." Zaxkar's scales rippled with anxiety. "You expect buildings to collapse often." "Better safe than sorry," Alan shrugged. "We're not due for a big one, but you never know." Peter Martinez, who had been quietly observing, noticed the aliens' distress. "Maybe we should move on to something less." The ground suddenly lurched beneath them. At first, it was just a small tremor, like the one from their arrival. But then it grew stronger, much stronger. "Earthquake," Alan shouted, his voice calm and commanding. "Everyone, drop, cover, and hold on." The alien delegation watched in shock as the humans in the community center quickly moved under tables and doorways. Their movements were practiced, almost routine, as if they regularly rehearsed for their planet trying to kill them. Security Chief Valen activated his gravity stabilizers to full power. "We need to evacuate. This structure could collapse." Magnitude 7.2. Zaxkar read from his instruments, his scales now pure white with fear. "This is a major seismic event." Through the windows, they could see buildings shaking. Some of the older structures were starting to crumble. The ground itself was rippling like water. And then they saw something that made them question everything they knew about human behavior. People were running toward the danger, not away from it. Alan Wright was already on his radio. "This is emergency response. I need all teams mobilized. Focus on the old business district and elementary school." Before the aliens could process what was happening, a group of humans burst through the door. They wore heavy protective gear and carried various tools. "Search and rescue team reporting," one of them said to Alan. "We've got trapped people in the Mason building." "Go," Alan ordered. "Priority is life safety. Be careful of aftershocks." The team ran out without hesitation. More humans arrived, organizing themselves into groups with practiced efficiency. Some headed toward damaged buildings, others set up medical treatment areas, and still others began controlling traffic and establishing safety zones. Ambassador K3's crystalline form flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. "They're going into unstable structures during active seismic activity." "Someone's got to," Alan replied, checking his tablet for updates. "There are people trapped in there." Peter stepped forward. "This is what I tried to tell you about humans. We don't just survive our world, we help others survive it too." Through the next few hours, the alien delegation witnessed something they'd never seen before. Humans not only endured a disaster that would have caused most species to abandon the area permanently, they actively fought against it. They watched as Linda, the woman from the town hall meeting, now revealed to be a nurse, treated injuries without concern for her own safety. John Baker used his farm equipment, to clear debris. Even Sheriff Kelly was in the thick of it, helping coordinate rescue efforts while aftershocks continued to shake the ground. "Look at them," Zaxkar said to Peter, his voice filled with wonder. "They're acting as if they're immune to danger." "Not immune," Peter corrected. "We know it's dangerous. We just think saving lives is worth the risk." A cheer went up from a partially collapsed building. The search and rescue team emerged with 3 people, including a young child. Despite being covered in dust and clearly injured, the rescued humans were already trying to tell others where more survivors might be. "That building is literally falling apart," Valen observed. "How did they even know where to look?" "Training and experience," Alan explained, walking past with more supplies. "Plus we got thermal imaging, acoustic sensors, and rescue dogs. Speaking of which, hey, could one of you help with the K9 unit? We need someone to carry extra water for the dogs." Before anyone could respond, another aftershock hit. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans simply adjusted their stance and continued working. A rescue dog barked, leading its handler to another potential survivor. "I need to document this," Zaxkar said, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. "This level of adaptation to disaster conditions is unprecedented." As the day wore on, the true scope of human resilience became clear. They worked through aftershocks, dangerous conditions, and growing exhaustion. When one team got tired, another took its place. They set up emergency shelters, distributed supplies, and continued search efforts well into the night. "Don't your people need rest?" 3 asked Alan, who had been coordinating efforts for over 12 hours straight. "We work in shifts," he explained, downing something the humans called coffee, a stimulant that would be considered a dangerous drug on most Commonwealth worlds. "Can't stop until everyone's accounted for." By nightfall, the immediate crisis had passed. The humans had saved 27 people from collapsed buildings, treated over 100 injuries, and established temporary housing for those who needed it. They were already making plans to rebuild, talking about improved earthquake resistance, as if they expected to go through this again. In the emergency command center, now set up in the undamaged community center gym, Zaxkar made his latest log entry. "The humans' response to the earthquake has revealed a crucial misunderstanding in our assessment. We thought their survival on this death world was passive, a result of natural evolution. We were wrong. They actively fight their world's hostile conditions, not just for themselves but for each other. This raises disturbing questions about their potential response to external threats." Peter read the log entry over his shoulder and smiled. "Now you're starting to understand." "Yes," Zaxkar replied, watching as another group of humans headed out to check buildings for structural damage, despite the continuing aftershocks. "And I'm not sure if I should be impressed or terrified." An alarm sounded. Another aftershock warning. The aliens braced themselves, but the humans barely seemed to notice. They were too busy planning the next phase of their recovery efforts. "Probably both," Peter said, helping a rescue worker carry supplies. Being impressed and terrified of humans is usually the right response. 3 days after the earthquake, Dr. Karen Phillips stood in front of the alien delegation in Pine Creek's high school laboratory. As a human biologist, she had been called in to explain how humans could survive conditions that the Commonwealth considered lethal. The aliens sat in their protective suits, still processing what they had witnessed during the disaster. "Let's start with something basic," Dr. Phillips said, pulling up an image of the human skeletal system. "Our bones aren't just for support. They're living tissue that constantly rebuilds itself. When we break a bone, it often heals stronger than before." Zaxkar's scales shifted to a puzzled green. "You mean damage makes you stronger?" "In many cases, yes," she replied. "It's why our astronauts need special exercises in space. Without Earth's gravity stressing our bones and muscles, they get weaker." Ambassador K3's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "You require damage to maintain health. That's disturbing." Peter Martinez, sitting at the back of the room, tried to hide his smile. He had been through this explanation before, when the Commonwealth first found him. Dr. Phillips continued, "Our muscles work the same way. When we exercise, we actually cause tiny tears in our muscle fibers. They heal back stronger. This is why humans can keep getting stronger through training." She changed the display to show a human circulatory system. Our bodies also adapt to different oxygen levels. People who live in high mountains develop more red blood cells to cope with thin air. Those who swim a lot can train themselves to hold their breath for several minutes. The security team exchanged worried looks. Chief Valen spoke up. "Are you saying humans can modify their own biology at will?" "Not exactly at will," Dr. Phillips corrected. "But we adapt. Look at the rescue workers from the earthquake. Many of them worked for hours in conditions you consider deadly: dust, unstable ground, varying temperatures. Their bodies adjusted to handle the stress." She pulled up another chart, this one showing temperature ranges. Humans can survive in temperatures from roughly -50 to +50 degrees Celsius with proper preparation. Our bodies maintain a stable internal temperature of about 37 degrees through various mechanisms. The aliens stared at the numbers in shock. Such a range would kill most Commonwealth species. "But here's what really interests me about your reaction to us," Dr. Phillips said, bringing up new data. "You classify Earth as a death world because of things we consider mild inconveniences. Let me show you what humans actually consider dangerous." She displayed images of extreme environments: deep ocean trenches, active volcanoes, Arctic ice sheets. These are places humans can't easily survive. But you know what? We've built machines to go there anyway. We explore them. We study them. Sometimes people even try to set records for surviving in these conditions. "Records?" Zaxkar asked, his scales rippling with confusion. "You compete to see who can survive the most deadly conditions. We call it extreme sports," Dr. Phillips said with a grin. "Some humans climb mountains without oxygen supplies. Others dive into deep caves. A few even run long-distance races in deserts." Ambassador Kithri's form flickered rapidly. "This is beyond adaptation. This is deliberately seeking danger." "No," Peter interrupted. "It's about pushing limits. Understanding what we're capable of. Every time someone survives something previously thought impossible, we learn more about human potential." Dr. Phillips nodded in agreement. "Let's talk about your concerns about our diet. You've noticed we eat things that would be toxic to your species." She displayed a list of common human foods. The aliens were shocked to see that humans regularly consumed chemicals they considered dangerous: caffeine, capsaicin, theobromine, and various alcohols. "Some of what we eat actually is mildly toxic," she explained. "But our bodies have evolved to process these substances. In fact, some of them have beneficial effects in small doses. We call it hormesis. A little bit of stress makes our bodies more resilient." The presentation continued, each new fact making the aliens more uneasy. Humans could heal from injuries that would be fatal to most species. They could survive loss of limbs, removal of certain organs, and massive blood loss. Their immune systems could fight off countless microscopic invaders. "And here's something really interesting," Dr. Phillips said, showing brain scans. "Human pain tolerance is remarkably adaptable. The more pain we experience, the better we can handle it. Some humans learn to control their pain response through mental training alone." Chief Valen stood up suddenly. "Are you saying humans can override their own survival instincts?" "When necessary, yes," she replied. "How do you think those rescue workers ran into collapsing buildings during the earthquake? They felt the fear, but they chose to act anyway." The room fell silent as the aliens processed this information. Finally, Zaxkar spoke, his scales now a deep blue of realization. "I understand now," he said slowly. "Your greatest survival trait isn't your physical adaptability. It's your ability to ignore your survival instincts when you decide something is more important than safety. Dr. Phillips smiled. Exactly. We don't just survive our death world. We challenge it. We explore it. We help others survive it. And sometimes, we even have fun doing it. As the presentation ended, Peter watched the aliens file out of the room, their environmental suits whirring as they moved. He could tell they were deeply troubled by what they had learned. Later that evening, Zaxkar added to his report, "Human biology defies conventional classification. They are not merely adapted to their death world. They actively seek ways to become more resilient. Most disturbing of all, they seem to enjoy the process. Standard Commonwealth protocols may be insufficient for dealing with such a species. Recommendation: extensive review of first contact procedures for death world species." A week after Dr. Phillips' presentation, tension filled the air in Pine Creek. The alien delegation had grown quieter, more watchful. Security Chief Valen spent long hours sending encrypted messages to the Commonwealth fleet, and his security team seemed constantly on edge. Only Peter Martinez noticed these warning signs. He found Zaxkar in the hotel's garden, studying a bee pollinating flowers. "Even your smallest creatures are dangerous," Zaxkar said, his scales a worried purple. "That insect carries poison, yet humans plant flowers to attract them." "We need them to survive," Peter explained. "Without bees, many of our food plants wouldn't grow. You've turned deadly creatures into helpers." Zaxkar turned all four eyes to Peter. "Just like you've turned a death world into a home." Their conversation was interrupted by Steve Turner, the owner of the local gym, leading a group of rock climbers past the hotel. They carried ropes and gear, laughing and talking about a new climbing route they'd found. Valen watched them through the hotel window, his protective suit humming as he processed this new information. They climbed sheer rock faces for entertainment. "It's great exercise," Steve called out, having overheard. "You aliens should try it sometime." The security chief's response was lost in the sound of arriving vehicles. 3 black Commonwealth transport ships landed in the field where they'd first arrived. Valen's security team immediately moved to secure the area. "What's going on?" Sheriff Kelly asked, approaching the hotel. "We weren't expecting more visitors." Ambassador 3 floated forward, her crystalline form unusually dim. "These are not visitors, Sheriff. The Commonwealth Council has made a decision about Earth." Peter felt his stomach sink. He knew that tone. What kind of decision? Before K3 could answer, Valen's security team surrounded the humans present. Their protective suits had transformed, revealing hidden weapon systems. "Earth has been classified as a Level 1 threat," Valen announced. "Your species is too dangerous to join the Commonwealth. You will be contained." Steve's climbing group had stopped to watch. Instead of showing fear, they looked more curious than concerned. One of them was quietly filming with her phone. "Contained." Sheriff Kelly's hand moved away from her gun, showing admirable restraint. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means," Valen said, "that we cannot allow humans to leave Earth. Your adaptability makes you too unpredictable. Your disregard for danger makes you too volatile." Peter stepped forward, but Zaxkar held him back. "Valen, this is a mistake. Humans aren't a threat." "Really?" Valen's suit amplified his voice. "They survive conditions that kill most species. They intentionally poison themselves to build immunity. They run toward disasters. And now we learn they climb mountains for fun. What happens when they bring these traits to other worlds?" The security team's weapons hummed to life. Steve's climbing group watched with increasing interest, spreading out almost casually. "Those weapons," Steve said calmly, "they work by disrupting neural patterns, right? Peter told us about them. Non-lethal." Valen's suit turned toward him. "Correct. They will cause unconsciousness without harm. We are not monsters." Steve nodded, then smiled. "Good to know. Hey, anyone remember the range on those things?" "About 30 feet, wasn't it?" Before Valen could respond, Steve's climbing group sprang into action. They moved with the skill of people used to trusting their lives to quick reactions and strong hands. 3 of them fired their climbing ropes, the hooks catching the security team's suits with perfect accuracy. "What are you doing?" Valen demanded. "Those are reinforced environment suits." "Yeah," one of the climbers said, pulling her rope tight. "Great anchors." In seconds, the security team found their suits tangled in climbing ropes. When they tried to fire their weapons, the humans were either too close or too far away. They had figured out the weapon's range and were using it against them. Steve's group moved like they were on a cliff face, working together with practiced ease. They used the ropes to redirect and unbalance the suits, proving that even advanced alien technology was no match for simple physics and human coordination. "Stop this," Valen commanded. "You're proving our point about how dangerous you are." "No," Peter said, watching as the humans efficiently disabled the security team without causing any harm. "They're proving why you're wrong about us. They could hurt you, but they're choosing not to." Sheriff Kelly stepped forward. "We don't want trouble, but we won't be contained either. Earth is dangerous, sure. Living here taught us to be strong, adaptable, and clever, but it also taught us to help each other survive." The climbing group had finished immobilizing the security team. Steve brushed off his hands and grinned. "Besides, if you wanted to keep us on Earth, you probably shouldn't have shown us how your technology works. We're pretty good at figuring things out." Ambassador 3 had watched the entire incident in silence. Now her crystalline form brightened. "Perhaps we have made an error in judgment." "A significant one," Zaxkar agreed, his scales shifting to a new color, one of respect. "They disabled our best security team using primitive rope technology and knowledge of our weapons' limitations, and they did it without causing injury." Valen's suit sparked as he tried to move. "That's what makes them dangerous. They learned our weaknesses in days." "No," Peter said firmly. "It's what makes humans special. Yes, we learn quickly. Yes, we're adaptable. But we use those abilities to survive and help others survive. Even now, your team is unharmed." Steve started helping the security team out of their tangled suits. "Look, we get that we seem scary to you. Earth's a tough place, but that toughness made us who we are. Not just strong, but compassionate. We don't want to fight you. We want to work with you." As the situation calmed down, Zaxkar made a final note in his log. "Previous assessment requires revision. Humans are indeed dangerous, but not in the way we feared. Their greatest weapon isn't their strength, their adaptability, or even their peculiar relationship with their death world. It's their ability to transform survival traits into tools for cooperation. Recommendation: immediate reconsideration of Earth's classification. They may be exactly what the Commonwealth needs, a species that can help us all survive." 2 weeks after the incident with the security team, Zaxkar stood before the Commonwealth Council. The great chamber, designed to accommodate beings from 1,000 worlds, hummed with nervous energy. On a nearby platform, Peter Martinez waited calmly, seemingly unbothered by the different atmospheric pressures and gravity fields surrounding him. "Honored Council," Zaxkar began, his scales shifting to formal gold. "I come to present my final report on Earth and its inhabitants. I must begin by admitting our initial assessment was deeply flawed." The council chamber's displays showed images from Pine Creek, the earthquake response, Dr. Phillips's presentation, and even the security team incident. Many council members shifted uncomfortably at the footage of humans running into collapsing buildings to save others. "Earth is indeed a death world by our standards," Zaxkar continued. "But we made a crucial error in our understanding. We thought this made humans a threat. Instead, it made them something unprecedented in our experience, a species that transforms deadly conditions into opportunities for growth." Ambassador Kithri floated forward, her crystalline form bright with purpose. "During our stay, we witnessed humans survive conditions that would kill most species, but more importantly, we watched them help each other survive. They turned mutual aid into an instinct as strong as self-preservation. A council member from a low-gravity world spoke up. But what of the incident with our security forces? They disabled our best technology with primitive tools. Peter stepped forward. May I address this? The council murmured in surprise. Few species would willingly speak in atmospheric conditions so different from their home world. But Peter stood straight and spoke clearly. Yes, we disabled your security team, he said. We did it without causing harm, using simple tools and observation. That's what humans do. We adapt, we learn, we solve problems, but we also choose how to use those abilities. He gestured to the display showing Steve's climbing group helping the security team out of their tangled suits. We could have hurt them. Instead, we chose to demonstrate that we could protect ourselves while keeping everyone safe. That's the real story of how humans survive Earth. Zaxkar nodded, his scales rippling with enthusiasm. This brings me to my main recommendation. Earth should not be classified as a threat to be contained. Instead, I propose a new classification: Adaptive Guardian World. The council chamber filled with surprised whispers. Zaxkar pressed on, showing new footage. Linda treating injured aliens after the earthquake, John Baker teaching Commonwealth scientists about Earth agriculture, and Dr. Phillips sharing medical knowledge. Humans don't just survive their death world, he explained. They've learned to help others survive it too. Think about what this could mean for the Commonwealth. A species that can teach us how to endure hostile conditions, how to adapt to challenges, how to turn survival into cooperation. Security Chief Valen, his pride still somewhat bruised, stepped forward. But their unpredictability is their greatest strength, Peter interrupted. We're unpredictable because we don't accept limitations. When you tell a human something's impossible, we try to prove you wrong. Not out of spite, but because we believe in possibilities. Dr. Phillips, who had been invited to the council meeting, added her own testimony. Our biology tells the story. We evolve rapidly, adapt to poisons, heal from injuries, and pass these traits to our children. But our greatest adaptation was learning to work together. On Earth, lone survivors don't last long. Communities survive. The council deliberated for hours. Finally, the High Chancellor spoke. We have reviewed all evidence. Earth presents unique challenges to our normal protocols. However, we cannot ignore the potential benefits of human involvement in the Commonwealth. Zaxkar felt his scales shift to hopeful blue as the Chancellor continued. Therefore, we establish new protocols for Earth. They will not be contained. Instead, they will be invited to join the Commonwealth as a special category. Adaptive Crisis Response Specialists. Their unique abilities and problem-solving skills could help many worlds survive their own challenges. Peter smiled. We'd be honored. But you should know, if we join, we'll do it our way. We'll question things. We'll suggest crazy ideas. We'll probably break some rules trying to help people. We know, the Chancellor replied, with what passed for amusement in their species. That's exactly why we need you. After the council meeting, Zaxkar found Peter in the observation deck, looking at Earth through the massive windows. You know, Peter said, humans have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Living on Earth taught us that lesson well. Zaxkar's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a new one, a mixture of respect and anticipation. The Commonwealth will never be the same after this. Some species are still afraid of humans. Good, Peter grinned. A little fear is healthy, keeps you alert, makes you think creatively. We learned that on Earth too. I finished my final report, Zaxkar said. Would you like to hear it? Peter nodded, and Zaxkar read from his datapad. Final assessment. Earth remains classified as a death world, but with a crucial addendum. Its inhabitants have not merely survived their hostile environment. They have mastered it. Humans demonstrate an unprecedented combination of physical adaptability, technological innovation, and social cooperation. Most importantly, they exhibit a unique characteristic: the ability to transform survival traits into tools for helping others. While this makes them potentially dangerous, it also makes them invaluable allies. Warning to all Commonwealth species: Earth is not a world to be feared or avoided. It is a world to be studied and respected. Its people are not threats to be contained, but teachers who can help us all become stronger. Recommendation: full Commonwealth membership with special status. Earth will serve as a training ground for crisis response teams, and humans will be invited to assist with survival challenges on other worlds. Personal note: in my years of xenobiology research, I never expected to find a species that would completely change our understanding of survival. The humans have a saying: that which does not kill us makes us stronger. Perhaps it's time for the Commonwealth to embrace this philosophy. End report. Peter listened quietly, then turned back to the view of Earth. You know, most humans don't think of Earth as a death world. To us, it's just home. Perhaps that's your greatest achievement, Zaxkar replied. You turned a death world into a cradle for something remarkable, a species that doesn't just survive, but helps others survive too. As they watched Earth rotate below them, Zaxkar made one final note in his personal log. The humans have a point. Perhaps we should stop avoiding death worlds. With their help, we might learn to make them into homes too.